Hi, I'm Sam.
And I'm Max.
And this is Movie Nostalgia, where we give you an honest review of movies that we've delved into on other shows.
And on this episode, we'll be looking at the movie adaptation of the most recent book that I've covered on What I Just Unread, which is The Duellists, directed by Ridley Scott, starring Keith Carradine, Harvey Keitel, Albert Finney, Edward Fox, Christina Rains, Diana Quick. Featured appearances by the likes of Alan Armstrong, Hugh Fraser. Apparently Pete Postlethwaite's in there somewhere.
I didn't see him.
Oh, Tom Conti as well.
Oh, yes.
Yes, amongst others, let's say. Not only is it directed by Ridley Scott, this is Ridley Scott's first feature debut. That's a bit of a tautology, isn't it? His feature debut was with this in 1977. So this one is a revisit for me, and if you saw last week's episode of What I Just Unread, then I do say on there that this is kind of how I knew this story and was interested in reading Conrad's original novella. An old friend of mine from college recommended this to me a long time ago, and yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it the first time I saw it. So this is, I'm trying to think when that was. That would have been late 90s?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, because I think Rob told me about it about 93, 94, and it was a good sort of 5 years afterwards that I got to see it for the first time. So this is only the second time that I've watched it.
Ah, right. For my own case, this is a first-time watch. I've heard of the film before, mentioned a few times on various videos I've watched on YouTube and things like that. But this is the first time sitting down and watching it and taking it in. It was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, as you were saying when we were watching it, there's... how do you refer to it? Proto-Scott.
Yeah, I enjoy quite a few Ridley Scott movies over the years. Both, Alien and Gladiator and, oh God, I can't remember half of the other films that he's ever done. But all of those historical epics he's done over the years, things like that.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
I appreciate all of them. And he's got a very particular style. And you can see it in this film. But it's held back. It's constrained. It's been chopped out in a few places. Yeah, it's proto Ridley Scott.
Yeah, I mean he had a reasonable budget for it, because there's a wonderful featurette on here with it's a director interview by another director who's been interviewed by Chris Reynolds, who I only really know because he did the 2001 Count of Monte Cristo, and used parts of this as a lot of the inspiration of how he gave that film its look.
Oh, yes, that does make sense. I was talking about Monte Cristo.
Exactly, yeah, I was thinking about that when you were saying, yeah, because because obviously Chris Reynolds remembers this from when he was a kid, and was so it took a lot away from it. It taught him a lot. But yeah, so I think he had a budget of about 900,000.
Not bad, not great, but not bad.
But again, you're saying a lot of that in there. They had to find ways to cut corners. So there's the bit where he's shooting from inside the tent, looking out where they're doing the arm wrestling.
Uh-huh.
What you see out the back of the tent, that's it. That's all of the props and extras that they could afford.
That's everything they had.
Yeah, so that's why they had the idea.
Oh,
well,
right.
If you shoot from in the tent, you don't have to do an establishing shot of the rest of the military camp.
Of course not.
You can just see it there. And,
yeah.
I mean, what's the other thing?
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, because in a lot of that, and I don't know if you noticed it, a lot of the scenes will open with almost like a tableau.
Yeah, yes, like an establishing, but it's not just an establishing shot. It's like I say, it's a tableau. It's an image.
Yeah. So I'm guessing to emulate obviously the popular art form at the time, which were like big portraits and things like that. Mm-hmm. So that's why you always have that few seconds at the start of the scene just to give you that sort of setup, which is really, really, really nice.
Well, it gives it that big picture value that does belie the budget.
Yeah, absolutely.
It does make it look a little more grand and a little more epic.
It's amazing what you can do, with just some clever positioning of the camera and stuff.
Oh, yes, indeed.
It's like when you... I'm trying to think what film it was now. There was one in particular I watched again recently. 28 Days Later.
Yes.
Obviously, when I first saw it at the cinema, I was like, oh, this is really, really cool. When you go back and watch it on the small screen, you can see how little budget he had for that film. and how much they make it work. If you look closely, if you don't pay attention to the action and just look at the setting and stuff,
Yeah.
you can see how they were dragging as much as they could out of every piece of every location and everything that they had.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest, I mean, I actually had not the same model camera, but the next one down from them. They were using incredibly cheap digital cameras at the time. They cost about £3,000, which in Hollywood terms is nothing.
No.
Absolutely nothing. And the entire film was shot on this budget camera style.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry, a little bit of a tangent there, coming back to this. Yes, so if you've never heard of it, and chances are you probably haven't, because it had a very limited cinema release in the US when it came out.
Oh, right.
It was only seen in about half a dozen theatres.
Really?
Yeah, not half a dozen, about a dozen theatres in the US. And I'm not sure how much of a release it had over here. But the Duellists is a movie adaptation of Joseph Conrad's novella The Duel, which follows the lives of two officers in Napoleon's army who have a long-running feud which is fought out over a series of duels against the backdrop of the Napoleonic Wars. It's an interesting one to do a movie of. Something that I can actually update you on from my thing from last week, because it's mentioned in that interview with Ridley Scott. I mentioned last week that I expected more from the book. I expected it to be like a full novel.
Yes, you said that you were hoping for more.
Yes, apparently Conrad had originally intended it. What we got, the novella, was his treatment.
It was a synopsis.
Yeah. But a novel that he never got to write, so he released just the novella as it was.
Okay, fair enough. Well, that makes a lot more sense.
It does, yeah. The movie version is different. There are changes. There's quite a few changes in it. Like the woman that he's involved with at the start of the film doesn't exist.
Okay.
All of that is made up by the scriptwriter because he felt that this original story didn't give enough of a backstory, if you like, or a regular life of its protagonist, Hubert.
It's what they call a human interest.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. That's exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was all made up. But all the stuff at the end with his fiancée and things like that is from the book.
That is from the book. Oh, right, okay.
But yeah, I mean, the thing, I mean, we were saying about this a minute ago, it doesn't feel like a 96-minute film.
No, it doesn't. It feels like an hour 45-minute film, which isn't a huge chunk longer.
No.
But you do feel it. I genuinely thought I was leaning more towards 2 hours than an hour and a half.
Yeah.
When I got to the end of the movie.
And, I mean, some of that there is a massive tonal shift about just over halfway through the film where we get...
So 2/3.
Yeah, about 2/3 of the way through.
Yeah.
And again, I think it shows...
It slows right down.
It slows right down, but my main problem with that is it jars so much from what happens beforehand, and it didn't need to, because in the story itself, he's always writing to or getting letters from his sister. So to just drop her in as a character 2/3 of the way through the film, without establishing her existence prior to that...
Oh, you know what? I know how to solve that problem. She should have been the narrator.
Exactly.
She should have been the narrator.
Yeah.
We didn't need the male narrator. We needed her as the architect.
So, Ridley, if you're going to go back and change anything, there you go.
Yeah. And that's for one viewing. One viewing.
5% commission. We're good for it.
I'll take 5% of 5%, to be honest.
And again, it is a faithful adaptation in most other respects. They did some wonderful work, again, with the locations, with the costumes and stuff like that.
With the costume design, the attention to detail, I noticed that straight away. And it was consistent throughout in a story where the fashions and culture change rapidly between segments of the story, significally.
Yeah, because again, we're covering a period of about 16 years in this, so...
Yeah.
One of the things I did find out... this is fucking brilliant. Sorry. It's a little anecdote from Ridley Scott during the filming. You know the bit where they're with the two horses and you were commenting about the horse, really, really liking it?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I looked at that, I seen it, like, the director must have been that's gold, print it.
It is gold, but it's not him that the horse was interested in. It's the other horse.
No, I noticed that at the end. I did notice that at the end. But right at the beginning, it looked like the horse was like, "You're my friend. You're my friend."
But it's even better because in that shot, where the horse kind of moves around kind of like half out of frame, and he's doing the proposal and she starts giggling. Mm-hmm. She's not giggling because of that. She's giggling because she can see that the horse off screen has got a massive hard on.
Oh. That's one of those classic moments
Again,
of cut
it's-
print.
Yep,
Cut print. That was perfect. We can't repeat that. We can't do that any better than that. Just make it so. Make it so.
Make it so, number one.
Yeah, it's definitely worth your time. It's a wonderful film. As I said, again, if you're a fan of Ridley Scott, and you probably have heard of it, or you might not have done because it was his first feature, it's worth checking out. Like the story, there's a lot going on here, and a lot of it is reading between the lines to pick up on what he's trying to say. I'm really glad to have had a chance to see it again. I'm really glad to have a chance to do it on the show. So do give it a look. It is absolutely worth your time. Again, as we said, it does have its problems. As I said, the second half does slow down quite a lot. So I am going to give it a very well-deserved star.
Right. Well, I'm going to go a little different. Like I said earlier on, this is my first time watching this film. I enjoyed watching it, but I noticed flaws. Some of that is to do with the early Ridley Scott work. Some of it was to do with the budget. But ultimately, I think this is a movie you should watch if you enjoy historical stories. Absolutely. You will enjoy this one. It's right up there. If you're looking for some classic Ridley Scott, like epicness, maybe not quite so much. This is too early in his career. He hadn't quite developed his style quite enough. You can see part of what he was going to become, but you don't see the whole thing here. But if you want to watch a good historical film, take that thumbs up. Absolutely.
Brilliant.
And if you're interested in Ridley Scott, at least one thumbs up just for one viewing. Just to see how he started.
Exactly. We should be back on track next time. I'm not going to do the same thing as I did last time. I'm just going to say, you've got a friend in me.
Oh, thanks, Andy.
Andy? Who's Andy? Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yes, anyway, as always, until next time, thank you for joining us. Look after yourselves and one another, and we will see you next time.
As always, guys, TTFN.